Hello, everyone. I am Dee. Welcome back to another episode of Spiritually Speaking. Today, I have a special treat for you. I have my guest, Robin, with me today. Robin, I'm super excited about this conversation and welcome to the show. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show. I'm really excited to be here as well. I am a biofield tuning practitioner and instructor and a Reiki master and a sound intuitive. I don't know how else to say what I do in terms of my sound baths and sound work other than I'm a sound intuitive. That kind of says it all. Everything I do is intuitively guided. I don't have any predetermined ideas of what I'm going to do when I go into a sound bath. And yeah, so I'm really excited to be here. I've been doing that work, biofield tuning work, since about 2015. It was when I started and became an instructor for biofield tuning and Eileen McCusick in 2019. So I've been instructing for her since then. And I think I've been doing Reiki since about 2013. It's been quite a while, 2012, maybe 2013, somewhere around in there. So yeah, I love energy. I love energy work and I love helping people.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I'm all on and board in that boat with you for sure. I love it. I think helping people is at the crux of what we do or why we do what we do, I guess I should say.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah.
definitely my motivating factor. It's all about helping people feel better for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's much needed in this world right now. I feel there's so much weird, chaotic, undetermined energy. I don't know, maybe that's not a good word, but there's this kind of like weird energy kind of floating around too, where there's a lot of unknowns. People don't understand certain things that are starting to come to light and things. So it's a different time for us, I feel.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, I've just sort of recognized that there is an underlying anxiety within me that I've never had before. I don't ever remember being a terribly anxious person growing up as a kid, and I mean, I'm well into my adulthood. At this point, I'm on, the far end of life. And it's just been sort of a recent development that I've noticed within myself, this underlying tension and anxiety. And I absolutely agree with you. I think it's related to all the chaos going on in the world, all the divisiveness, all the uncertainty.
Mhm.
And I think as a kid I had, and I think we all do, have a lot of hope for the future. And here I am in the future, and I'm feeling like, wow, what is going on? What is happening these days?
Yeah.
But within that, once I kind of put my finger on it and put a label on it, it everything kind of shifted for me, and I just really said to myself, I don't have to be part of that tension and anxiety. That's its own tornado, and I don't have to be in that tornado. So it really helped once I kind of looked at it that way and removed myself from it and just said, you know what, I don't have to be in that. I can be over here. It's still going on. It's not that I am turning a blind eye to it, but I'm not in it. It's
Right.
not mine.
Yeah. And that is the biggest distinction right there. It's not yours. And us being
Mm.
aware of it is not the same as taking it on like that. And what I've come to do is just send it love and light, because I really do truly feel like that's the best route to take is just send love and light because we're not going to change. We can't change what other people do, but we can send love and light to the situation, which is very powerful. I know a lot of people think that's kind of a hokey, and I just heard this term recently, Pollyanna notion, but it really is
Oh, yeah.
beneficial, you know?
Well, yeah. Yeah. I love that Pollyanna outlook, because Pollyanna always looked on the bright sides of things. She always looked at the bright side. And I think that that is also what we need to do amidst the chaos. What can you do to be on the light side of things as
Yeah.
opposed to the heavy dark sides? And it doesn't mean that you actually have to do anything
Right.
other than decide you're not going to get sucked into the divisiveness and the
Mhm.
darkness and the oh woe is me and oh my gosh this is terrible over here and that's terrible over there, and just say no, just stop
Yeah.
and go out and stand on the ground and you know connect to the earth and realize that you can stand and connect to the earth and the sun and the trees and everything around you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's such a beautiful thing too. And there is a lot of beauty in the world. And you mentioned trees, which is one of the most exciting
Mhm.
parts of what you do that you didn't really elaborate on a while ago. I'd love for you to elaborate that on that a little bit right now so everyone can know what I know about you.
Well, trees have always been a really important part of my life. When I was a little kid, I was climbing trees all the time. I didn't really think anything about it other than I loved being up in trees and being really high up in a tree. And I unfortunately got more than my fair share of people stuck up in trees following me up there. That's a whole other story. So we won't we won't get into that. But um, yeah, I just always loved trees. And then, you get to be an adult and you kind of move away from those kinds of things, playing in trees and that kind of stuff. And then I think I was maybe 15 years ago or so, I was teaching down. I live in Tennessee, and I was teaching down towards Memphis in this beautiful little town that had this beautiful square, town square. It was just lovely. And there were these ginormous trees in the square. I can't remember the name of this town, but and I had a fairly long lunch break, so I was just kind of walking around, and I happened to lean against one of the really big trees that was on this beautiful little town square park. And this tree started talking to me, and I kind of like jumped away from the tree because I had no idea what was going on. And we started this conversation. And I leaned back against the tree, and wow, all I can say is trees have a lot of wisdom that they want to give you. And honestly, I think if you just go and lean your back against a tree and ask it a question, it will tell you everything you need to know. It has so much wisdom. And that began my kind of earnest relationship with trees and just really gaining wisdom from trees. I think anybody can do that if you just allow yourself to be open to it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Sadly, neither one of my kids ever climbed trees, but I don't know.
Wow.
It's a different world.
That's so interesting. I raised boys, and actually, it's so funny. My boys both climbed trees, and them being boys, boys do boy things. And I remember
Yeah.
when they were little, there was this tree right outside the back door. It was a not a huge tree, but a bigger tree. They would climb up in that tree all the time and say stuff to me when I would come outside or whatever. And then this one day, I come outside and I go to walk under the tree, and all of a sudden, here comes a sprinkle out of the tree. One of my boys decided he had to pee up there. And I was like, hey, now listen.
Oh my gosh.
So that's just a funny tree story. Boys, I'm telling you.
Oh
Yeah, both my
my God.
boys climb trees. And interestingly, my youngest son, he was the more avid of the tree climbers out of the two. And my ex-mother-in-law did not like it when they would climb trees at her house, and it was all fear
Mm,
based. What if they fall and break their
yeah,
arm? And I was like, well, I'll take them to ER and we'll get a cast on. I mean, I didn't raise my kids to be afraid of things like that. And I'm like,
yeah.
how can you put a boy or even a kid, a girl, a kid, how can you put a kid in a backyard with a tree? and expect the kid not to climb the tree. I mean, to me, that just doesn't
Right.
even make sense because I'm like you, I was always up in a tree too when we were, we were growing up and we had this, we lived on Tampa Air Force, or not Tampa Air Force Base, MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa. And we lived on this street called Magnolia Lane. And in the backyard of the
Oh my
house we lived
gosh.
in was this enormous tree. And I think it might have been a silver maple or something. I don't know, but it was gorgeous.
Mm.
And I was up that tree all the time. I mean, because the view was spectacular, it felt good to be up there. My mom always knew if she went outside and she didn't see me in the yard, just look up because that's where I was up in that tree.
Oh my gosh.
It was
That's
great.
awesome.
I
I
haven't
love
had
that. Yeah.
conversations with trees. Well, I did talk to my trees here in our yard because I heard my friend posted a video about trees being able to protect your property and your home
Mm.
from unwanted energies. And most
Oh
of the
yeah.
time, they will do this without you even having to ask them to, but you can go and actually speak with them and ask them to basically guard your property and your home. So I did do that. I did walk outside and ask them, very respectfully, thank you for being here. And would you please? And all of the things. And it was really cool. It was a really cool conversation, but I don't remember hearing words that would have caused me to, have the reaction that you did. I don't remember hearing that back. Just a kind of a feeling, kind of a knowingness in my soul, which was really cool.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, that's all you have to do. And I think people hear energies and plants and anything like that differently. Everybody hears it and feels it and senses it a different way. So, but I love that idea of asking the trees to protect your home. I have two ginormous oak trees in my backyard, one on either side of the backyard. And then I've got one really large oak tree in the front yard. So it kind of triangle, it creates a triangle in my yard.
Nice.
Um, I love that. And I do think that even without my having specifically asked them
Yeah.
to do so, I do believe my home is got great energy in it, and possibly because of the trees. So
Yeah.
I love that idea. I'm gonna go talk to them about it after this.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know how that goes because I think it's good. And they'll be like,
Yeah,
I bet they'll be like, we've been waiting for you to come say hi.
I
We offer
took you
you
long
shade
enough.
every day. It's about time.
Yeah,
Oh,
pay
that's so
homage to the
funny.
trees now.
Yeah, they're beautiful. And I love trees. I feel a connection to trees. And I think I told you, I actually make trees. I do twisted wire trees.
Yes.
And it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And I used to really stress myself out when I started doing that because I thought, oh, I messed this one up or it doesn't look quite right or whatever. And I would have all these judgments around it. And then one day I started really paying attention to trees when I was outside. I was like really looking at them and how they grow. And I was like, you know what? I can't mess this up. Like trees go all kinds of ways. I mean, some of them are like really perfect. They just grow naturally, really symmetrical. And some of them are all crazy. Some of them don't have branches on one side and they're all bent over. I mean, you really can't mess it
Hmm.
up. They're
You
amazing.
really cannot. I'm just looking at the beautiful one on your wall back there, and the other one that's a standing tree down there on the desk. They're beautiful.
Thank you. I made both of those. The one on the wall, I just finished today and put up right before we had our had our recording today.
Ah,
So
wow.
yeah, it's
Yeah, it's beautiful. I keep looking at it. I can't help but not look at it.
thank you. So tell us more about your sound healing. I know sound healing is something that is I don't want to say all the rage right now, but definitely I feel like it's on an upward trend as far as being noticed and being recognized as a valid source of healing and a very beautiful modality.
Yeah, so pretty much everything I do in terms of my healing work is sound based. Um, I and I agree with you. It is sort of the new it's the new thing. It's sound has been around since, the beginning of time,
Yeah.
in one form or another in terms of healing. I mean, um, frame drums, if you read any of or know who Lane Redman is, but she kind of brought frame drumming uh, to uh, front and center in terms of recognition. And if you go back to ancient hieroglyphics and those kinds of things, you'll see it was women who played frame drums. And it's probably the earliest known instrument is a drum, and it was a handheld drum. And that was sort of where I started, was with a frame drum in terms of my instruments and using sound. I mean, I'm a musician, I'm a guitar player, and those, a little bit of piano, and a singer, but I never really thought about the power of just vibration,
Mm,
in terms of its healing potential.
yeah.
So, so I really kind of started with frame drums and then moved into multiple other instruments. But everything that I do is sound based, from my sound immersions or sound baths, whatever you want to call them. And then my tuning fork work, of course, is also sound based. The Reiki is not in particular, but it's energy work. And prior to all of that, I actually was doing bioacoustic work, which is taking a vocal print of the voice, running it through some proprietary programs, uh, and being able to, um, uh, for lack of a better word, diagnose, not allowed to use that word if you're an energy worker, but
Right.
determine what's going on in the body in terms of frequency, what's off, what's too high, what's too low, and then bringing frequency to the body in order to bring it back to equilibrium, bring it back to homeostasis.
Yeah.
So that was where I started. That was back in like 2011, 2012. And everything kind of just progressed from there until I got to my biofield tuning work. I've been doing sound bath works probably as almost as long as I've been doing Reiki. But my biofield tuning work again started in 2015. But sound is definitely on the forefront of healing and self care.
Mhm.
Even hospitals, even the medical community is having to recognize the fact that sound affects the body.
Yes.
And at some point, sound will be delivered as medicine. It's not that far down the road. It's already happening. It's just
Yeah.
you're not going to be you right now. We can't go to a hospital and have sound delivered to us, or to a doctor's office and have sound delivered to the body in terms of being able to heal it. But it does indeed heal,
Mhm.
and uh, my feeling is we're at the just the cusp. We're on the forefront. We're on the leading edge. Anybody who's working in sound is really on the leading edge of the vast possibilities of using sound for healing. So yeah, it's a wide open field. It's just incredibly exciting, and there's so much more to learn.
Yeah, it is an amazing, and it's all frequency, like you said, in our bodies, that's what everything being in homeostasis, if you really get into the studies of that, each one of our organs has its own particular frequency when it's in homeostasis, when it's happy and healthy. And so using the frequency of sound to elevate a sick or injured part of our body just completely makes sense. And I don't know what the laws are where you live, but in the state of Florida, you are required to have a massage license to do Reiki or any kind of energy healing and certain other modalities, and sound healing is one of them because they consider it to be manipulation of tissue. Isn't
Yeah,
that interesting?
now those are the things that are going to um, uh, begin to come into our lexicon in terms of who can practice, who can't, do you have a license? I do know that Florida is a really sticky state regarding all of those things.
Hmm.
Um, and there are other states that are also really strict.
Yeah.
I think Massachusetts has been, excuse me, trying to pass some laws regarding energy work. And there's a group, like there is now a whole body of people who are advocating for less strict licensure regarding energy work. And I think a lot of it has to do with education and letting these political people who are in those positions to create the laws, just we need to get them educated so that they understand what it is that we do. Because if we have to start being certified and licensed, and not certified so much, but have state licensing and all of those things, it's very expensive,
Hmm.
and it could begin to price us out of being able to deliver energy work and energy services
Hmm.
if it becomes too expensive. And I think that that's, and also if we get a lot of laws slapped on us about you can do this and you can't do that, and so I don't know. It's probably a double-edged sword, and I can't see into the future for that. But I do know that I certainly wouldn't want to have to pass all kinds of state licensing just to do a sound bath for
Right.
somebody
Yeah.
or for a group of people.
Yeah.
Um, well, I can understand Reiki because you're touching the body. We do have those laws here in Tennessee as well. Not as bad as Florida, but in theory, you're not allowed to touch the body unless you have a license, a
Mhm.
massage therapy license. Any of those kinds of licenses. Um, so I'm very cautious about that. Honestly, Reiki could be done completely hands off. You
Yeah.
could do a whole Reiki session without laying hands on the body. You can bring the hands off of the body. The Biofield tuning work that I do also is mostly off of the body. It's really more out in the field, in the energy field of the body that I work. And I have a very large international business. I have clients all over the world. And so I'm doing those sessions remotely. So I'm not touching the body
Right.
with anything when I'm doing that. So if you can do it remotely, you can do it with the person right there in front of you. You
Yes.
don't have to touch the body.
Yes.
So that would be the way to get around it if I had to do that.
Yes, I agree. And it is because I do energy work too, not Reiki in particular, but to me, it's six of one, half a dozen of the other. It's energy work, you know? So that's kind of how I look at it. I did watch a video that I thought was really, really interesting on the subject of so many states, because it's not just Florida and Massachusetts. There's a lot of other states that require massage licensure to do this type of work. And sound healing, obviously, most of that isn't gonna to touch, when you're doing your singing bowls and stuff like that, you're not touching the client with that at all. But he said something that was really interesting to me, and that was that when you're doing massage, you're learning a procedure, right? You're learning how to do something in a very uh, a particular way, a particular sequence, and for a particular outcome in that one area or whatever. It's very a preconceived way of doing it, I guess. And so
Hmm.
when you're learning how to do something that way, that takes the intuition out of it. So to me, that was very, very interesting because I thought, because when we're doing energy work or sound healing or, you know, anything like that. It is very intuitive. And you mentioned that word at the very beginning of our conversation, that your sound healing is very intuitive. You're an intuitive
Yeah.
sound healer. So when you're taking that type of freedom and squishing it into a bunch of procedure, then you're actually kind of almost counting on that person not to use their intuition because they're too busy concentrating on the one, two, three steps of what they're doing. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I agree with you totally. I think that that is what's wrong with with conventional medicine today. I
Hmm.
mean, there are lots of things wrong with conventional medicine today, and I'm not. I certainly don't think it should go away. I think there's
Right.
definitely appropriate times when, if you need to go to the hospital, there's a doctor there and they can stitch you up or set a broken leg or whatever it is they need to do to fix you. So I think conventional medicine is great, but I don't think it's the only answer. I firmly believe that the physical body is only half of our picture of total health. The
Mhm.
other half is our energy body.
Yes.
And in order for one to be well, the other has to be well.
Yes.
So one can't stand alone.
Right.
So it's one is equally as important as the other. The physical body is just as important as the energy body, and vice versa. So total health, whole health, has to
Mhm.
deal with both.
Right. It does. And it's always been my understanding and my belief that it all starts in the energy body. If you have the
Yeah.
disruptions out here and you allow those to keep playing out and keep getting bigger and bigger, they get closer and closer, and then finally they're here in the physical body. That's my understanding and belief about it. Not everybody sees it that way, but
Well, I think it's sort of, I think it can be a discussion of which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? So, so, uh, I certainly can see it both ways. I can see if there's issues physically happening, then there are going to be issues out in the field. But if there are issues out in the field, that also is affecting the physical body.
Mhm.
So, I also don't think you can just fix the physical body and not deal with the energy body
Right.
and think that you're good to go. I mean, I can have a massage and somebody can work on my shoulder and I might feel better for a little while, but chances are in 3 or 4 days or a week, if I haven't dealt with what is also causing that energetically out in my field, my
Yeah.
shoulder problem's going to come back.
Right.
So you have to work with both. And sometimes what's going on in the shoulder, that's just the symptom.
Yeah.
The the root cause of that might be somewhere off my left knee.
Yeah.
So
It's very
so
true.
yeah. So you really have to kind of get into the energy field and just see what's going on. Which is why I love the work that I do because
Mhm.
we're constantly changing.
Yes.
I mean, constantly changing. And I might have somebody on my table one week and the approach might be in the energy field of the left knee. And then they might come back in 2 weeks and the approach might be in the energy field off of the right sacral or the right hip.
Hmm.
So we're always changing.
Yeah,
We're never staying the same. And and that's a good thing.
it is.
It's a good thing. And just like going to the gym, you don't go to the gym one time and call it good and say, oh, awesome, I've just exercised. I don't ever have to do that again as my bucket list, wipe it off, done. It
Right.
doesn't work that way, right? So you have to go to the gym every day in order to stay in shape. And energy is the same way. It doesn't mean you have to get an energy session every day, but
Right.
I do believe that getting an energy session once a week, at the very least once a month,
Hmm.
is crucial. It's really important.
Yeah, it would be an amazing thing if everyone could do that. If everyone was even mindful that that's a thing that they could do, would even be a big step forward because it really is
Yeah,
beautiful. So for people
it's
who may
amazing
not
work.
be able to monetarily afford to go get an energy session once a month, you know, that is a lot for some
Mm.
people, and I recognize and honor that. What would you recommend for them to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, ground. First and foremost, take your shoes off and go stand on the earth in your bare feet and ground. And if you can't, if it's raining or it's snowy where you are, not in the US this time of year, but depending on where you are in the world, it might not be conducive to going and standing outside in your bare feet. And so just stand inside in your bare feet and just use your focus and intention and imagination and just send the intention that you're connecting with the earth. Even if you live on the 32nd floor of an apartment building,
Right.
send the intention that you're connecting with the earth. We're always connected to the earth. The earth emits, we are electric beings, and
Yes.
we're made of negative and positively charged energy. The earth emits a negatively charged energy. We are always connected to it. We draw it up from the earth. The sun emits a positively charged energy and we draw that down. So we've got this beautiful bidirectional flow of electric current running through us.
Hmm.
So we're always connected to these polarities, the positively charged energy of the sun and the negatively charged energies of the earth. So you can always go outside and stand on the ground or wherever you are and intend to connect to those. Um, some other things you can do energetically for yourself without a whole lot of money at all is there are a gazillion million videos on YouTube
Hmm.
of people doing little sound baths.
Yeah.
I don't have any of those out there, but there are lots of people who do. I might in the future. I'm looking at that down the road, but um, and a lot of them are free. A good
Mhm.
many of them are free. Go buy yourself a sound bowl. Go try out a crystal bowl somewhere and or order one off of Amazon. I wouldn't recommend that. There are a lot of reputable um, crystal bowl dealers and Tibetan bowl dealers. I personally wouldn't just buy one off of Amazon, but there's a great company called Sunreed up in Vermont. They are fabulous. And they can steer you in the right direction for crystal bowls, Tibetan bowls, all kinds of beautiful sound instruments. Go buy yourself a little drum. Go, just, you can even just use your voice. As a matter of fact, your voice is your greatest asset for healing. Your voice.
Oh,
It
wow.
is uniquely tuned to you. So if you feel a pain in your body somewhere, give it a voice, give it a sound, just make a sound. It's not supposed to be like a beautiful voice tone, it's just supposed to be a sound that comes out of you. And if you can give whatever it is you're sensing or feeling a sound and just let it come out, you will be amazed at how well you will feel afterwards. And
Wow.
that's a hard thing to do for a lot of people, and sometimes a really brave thing to do. So give yourself some grace, if you want to do that. Another, great thing is um, I forget whose work this is. Mirror work. Just
Hmm.
look at yourself in a mirror. Stare at yourself in a mirror. That is incredibly powerful. So there really are lots of things that you can do to initiate self-healing. And there are sound baths, honestly, all over the place now. When I first started, I was the only game in town for a long time. which was great. But now there are lots of people doing sound baths, and they're not usually that expensive in person. So, depending on where you are in the world, you could probably go find a sound bath somewhere near you for $20, $30, $40. No, it's not all that much money, and you could do that once a month.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I
It's
mean.
all
People
about bringing.
people spend more than that on coffee from Starbucks every week.
Oh my gosh, I was just watching something on the news yesterday, as a matter of fact, on how Starbucks is struggling because it's so expensive and people
Mhm.
don't want to spend that money anymore.
Right,
People who spend $6 a day on a cup of coffee, that will buy a lot of sound baths.
right.
People buy a lot of sound baths. Um, and really, all healing is is about bringing relaxation to the body.
Yeah,
And when we can bring relaxation to the body, that's when healing happens.
yeah. It really does sound very, very simple. And it's so true because most of us are in a state of tension all the time. It's like a chronic thing for us just to feel tense. It's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. If you went and sat by a creek and just listened to the water,
Yeah,
you can't help but relax. I mean, even just go outside and listen to the birds.
yeah,
I mean, it's amazing the sound that birds make.
it is. And you'll be amazed how many
Incredibly.
you hear, how many different
Hmm.
calls you hear.
Yeah.
Just sit out there and just
Yes.
pay attention. I love doing that because we have owls in the woods. The our neighbor has 10 acres and there's a woods right next to the house and there's owls that come and sometimes there'll be several of them in there and they'll get to making all these noises back and forth and it'll sound like they're laughing. I had never
Oh,
heard an owl sound like it was laughing until we moved into this house, and it is the most amazing thing that I've ever heard in my life. It's incredible.
that sounds amazing. That just sounds like so much fun. I love owls.
Yes, I do too. They're so beautiful, so wise.
Yeah, beautiful creatures.
Yes,
Beautiful creatures.
they definitely are. Is there anything else that you do that you would love to share with us today?
Well, I think my biggest work really is my biofield tuning work, and that's the work that I do with tuning forks around the energy field of the body, and it's just profound work. It's profound. It's transformative. That's probably the biggest thing I do. And then my sound meditations are really my unique offering to the world. And I love doing my sound baths. I love just having people come and relax.
Yeah,
In the past, I've mostly done those in person, but I'm getting ready to ramp up and start to do some of those online as well. So,
I think that would be
so if
cool.
you're interested in any of that or interested in finding me, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, all the things,
All the things.
all the things.
Could
Yeah.
you tell us a little more about the tuning forks? I'm a little bit familiar with that. I've never had a session done, but I think it would be incredible. But for those who are like, what tuning forks? I thought those were for, tuning musical instruments. Could you explain it a little
Yeah,
more?
absolutely. So, biofield tuning is the brainchild of Eileen McCusick. She's out of Burlington, Vermont, and this is her body of work. And there are about 10 of us instructors in the world, 10 or 11 of us, and we teach for her. And it's a protocol. It's a specific protocol where we use tuning forks to determine where we're going to work in the energy field of the body. Basically, we're working with the main energy system, the seven chakra systems, the seven chakra energy centers. So we work with that. We also work with energy points at the knees and at the feet. And we're using tuning forks to find noise and dissonance out in the energy field of the body. So everybody has an energy field, a biofield is what we call it, and it extends about 5 to 6 feet off of the body. In theory, we're infinite and our energy fields go out forever. But in terms of our work, we have sort of an outer boundary, and that's about 5 to 6 feet away. And the outer field is where we start off of a particular energy center of the body, whether it's the left or the right. And we use tuning forks as sort of like a megaphone, if you will, and we connect with that dissonance that's out in the field. And the tuning fork represents a coherent vibration. And so when the coherent vibration connects with the dissonance or the noise, woo, you can hear it in the fork. It
Wow.
makes a distinct sound. And I am really good at understanding the language of the forks at this point. I've been doing it for quite a while. So when I connect with a piece of dissonance or noise out in the field, I can tell if it's anger or it's sadness or it's frustration or it's whatever it might be out there. And through the coherence of the tuning fork, we can bring that dissonance uh, into coherence. We can get it to sort of untangle from being stuck out in the field. And the stuck energy is literally energy that has been emitted from the body at whatever point in time that happened in a person's life.
Hmm.
So your energy field or your biofield is the hard drive of everything that's ever happened to you in your life. And so we can connect with that stuck energy that's out there in the field, get it to untangle, bring it into coherence, and then literally bring that energy back to the body, back into flow, back into the central flow of your core.
That
So
sounds
that energy that we
amazing.
draw up from the earth that I mentioned earlier,
Hmm.
that's a bidirectional flow. And the energy from the sun that I mentioned, that's also is flowing down through the body. So we're bringing any stuck energy that has been emitted from the body back into that flow. And when we when we do that, we're increasing our voltage. So we don't talk about increasing our frequency in the biofield tuning world. We talk about increasing our voltage.
Wow.
So if you can kind of imagine a light on a dimmer switch,
Hmm.
and when we are born, where our little light is beautiful and bright, and we're so excited to be here. And then as things happen to us throughout our life, and those little pieces of light get stressed out of us,
Hmm.
they're literally measurable by science. It's called biophotons that get stressed out of us.
Wow.
Um, our little dimmer switch goes down. And the more we stress things out of our body, the more the dimmer switch goes down and down and down and down until, sometimes we get to be adults and our little dimmer switch is down around our ankles.
Yeah.
And we don't have a whole lot of light left, and we really don't know why we're here or, what anything is for. And things are just kind of ho hum and not very exciting for us. And so as we find those pieces of light that have been stuck out in the field and get them to untangle and brought into coherence, then we bring them to the body and our little dimmer switch goes back up. And every time we clear things out of the field, the little dimmer switch goes up some more and up some more and up some more. And that is, we want to be full of life,
Yeah.
life and light.
Yeah.
We want to be full of ourselves. We
Absolutely.
want to be full of ourselves. When we hear those words, I remember as a kid, hearing, like put a lid on it
Yes.
and stop being so full of yourself.
Yes.
Like, who else are we supposed to be full of if we're not full of
Right.
ourselves?
Right. Exactly.
So the goal is to be full of yourself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And stress here that that is not arrogance nor narcissism. It's a totally different thing. It's all based in a
Yep.
beautiful, beautiful, pure love, which makes it completely different than any of those things I just said. Those yucky.
Yeah. Those
So,
yuckies. Yeah.
yeah. So, how important is it to find someone, a practitioner, to do this type of work for you that has had the proper training?
Oh, I would say really important. So, um, there are some classes that Eileen does through the Shift Network. Those aren't really teaching you to be able to do this work on someone else. You have to go through our training classes for that. Um, but you can learn enough about tuning forks to be able to pick up a fork and put it on your own body and feel how that feels.
Mhm.
Uh, Anybody can really find tuning forks, kind of anywhere. The forks that we use in our work are designed specifically for our work. They're medical grade tuning forks and they're really high quality. And I certainly recommend those, which you can get at biofieldtuning.com. I don't sell them. They're only sold through biofieldtuning.com. That's Eileen's website. But if you have tuning forks already, maybe somebody gave you a tuning fork, a weighted fork. Weighted forks are the ones that you put on your body. But yeah, you can use tuning forks on yourself. I I think that if you want to try to do this work for other people, you really, really probably need to be trained, properly trained. But
Right.
you could go get a weighted fork and use it on yourself. Absolutely.
That's so interesting. I'm so amazed by that. I just think that's the coolest thing. I'll have to do that one day. I've actually been quite curious about it for a while because it is one of the things I haven't done. Oh, and there's so many, but that's one of the things I haven't done. So I think that'd be really cool
Oh my gosh.
time.
Well, we should definitely connect for that and get a session for you for sure. And there are practitioners all over the world now. I mean, I'm teaching a class right now. There were 8 countries represented
Wow.
in my in a classroom of 18 people. There were 8 countries represented.
That's
That's
amazing.
amazing to me.
Yeah, that
It's
is
just
amazing.
so cool.
So is the tuning fork
So
thing, is it something in our digital age that we're in, is that something that needs to be done in person, or is that something that you can do over a virtual platform like Zoom?
yeah, you absolutely. I do it over. I have remote sessions all the time. It's a good percentage of my business. And people always ask, is it better to come in person or is it better online or remotely? And honestly, there are pros and cons to both. So I would not hesitate to do a remote session, even if it's your first. The nice thing about being in person is you get to actually feel the tuning forks on your body. And you can hear the tuning forks a little better if you're in person, but the work is no less effective remotely. And the nice thing about remote sessions is that you are in your own home, you're laying in your own bed or on your own couch, and you don't have to go anywhere. And I am not the distraction in the room. So you're really going to be super focused on yourself and on what you're sensing and noticing in your body as I'm working. But yeah, sometimes, remote sessions are more powerful than in person. I hate to say that one is more powerful than the other. They're really equally as effective and powerful.
That's amazing. It's so cool. I love that we can do so much of this stuff remotely now because I feel like it brings us together. It seems like to me that it brings us together more than we would, because so many people either can't or won't get out and drive, or they're in a place that's so remote it makes it cost prohibitive or time prohibitive for them to go somewhere and get something like this done. So I think it's amazing. So yay.
Oh, yeah. I have people who live down the road and do remote sessions. They could easily drive here. but they choose to stay where they are and do a remote session. And that was one of the good things that came out of COVID. So if you can kind of look at COVID from a positive standpoint, one of the good things that came out of COVID is that we really had to switch gears and figure out how to do things remotely. And guess what? It worked.
Yes.
So before COVID, we were only teaching biofield tuning in person.
Hmm.
And COVID happened, and we all just kind of were flipped upside down and thought, oh my gosh, excuse me, what's going to happen? How do we move forward? And we were able to figure out how to get our classes online. We didn't even know if it was going to work. And lo and behold, it did. And that was really when my business skyrocketed as well in terms of remote sessions. And people realized, oh my gosh, this is just as powerful through Zoom or over the phone as it is in person. So,
That's so
yeah, but
cool.
there are practitioners all over the world now. And if you decide you want to have an in person session, I'm pretty sure you could find somebody not too far from where you are,
That's amazing. That's
wherever
so
you
cool.
are.
Well, if someone would like to have a session with you, I know you mentioned some of the platforms you're on earlier. Do you have a website that kind of encapsulates everything?
I do. If you go to, I have two. They both go to the same place. So rbsoundhealing.com will get you there, and so will Biofield Tuning TN for Tennessee. Biofieldtuningtn.com will also get you to my website.
Oh,
So,
perfect.
and you can book through there. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'll drop those links in the description box below the video. And I'm so excited that you came on here and talked with me today. And so our beautiful listeners could hear all of this juicy stuff that you talked about and expand their minds a little bit about the different realities and other possibilities that are out there for healing and communication. Ask the trees for protection and all of those beautiful things. So thank you so much. And yeah, I love it.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This has been a true honor and a delight. It's really been just wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you. My pleasure. And thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode. And I appreciate you so much. I know that you will find value and education in this conversation we had today, and I appreciate you. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. I love you all.